Three, two, one. Okay, we're live, people. We are here for Game 2 of the WNBA semifinals. Aces Liberty will be here all night, hanging out, watching the game, talking about some of the happenings over the weekend in the sports world, taking advantage of what this great country has to offer while we still can. Will we make it to the NBA season? We'll see. But for right now, the WNBA playoffs are in full effect. The game is just tipped. The Aces are up 3-0 as we get underway, but the Liberty are up 1-0 on the series, as you guys know. And, you know, for Aces fans out there, and it's obviously this series is going to be very game to game, but a little more dominant than maybe you would like to see from the Liberty, and Brianna Stewart as well, too. Obviously, this is going to be the headline matchup of the day. Asia Wilson versus Brianna Stewart. I mean, Brianna Stewart, I mean, she's in a great relationship, but you know, the Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson kid might be the greatest basketball player of all time. But this is the headline matchup: Sabrina versus Kelsey Plum, and it is tied 3-3. And like I said, an exciting weekend of NFL, of college football, as well too. So we'll get into some of the stuff that happened with that, and maybe a little bit later, I'll tell you guys why I had to call the cops this week. I'm not a snitch, but they had to be called. Stay tuned. Coming up next, maybe I'll drop that story a little bit later, but we got a foul on the Aces to start. And, I mean, you could see the seriousness with this Aces team. I mean, remember, they're not just defending their title. They're also back-to-back, so they're kind of in a similar position that the Chiefs are in. And this is also, yeah, too, just an interesting exercise in watching a championship team trying to three-peat. And maybe there's not perfect parallels. I mean, it's hard, too, just even with the size of the leagues, the way the talent is spread out, it's a little bit different in how teams are built. But just the exercise, that mental exercise of having to go through 3 consecutive seasons, I wonder how common it is in the other sports because, I mean, in the NBA, obviously, we've only had it a handful of times with, in modern history, with the Bulls and the Lakers would have been the only team since the 90s, right? Am I missing one off the top that's obvious? But it never happened in NFL history. And then I'm assuming it's happened in baseball, but I can't ever remember it happening. Let's do a quick three-peat check here. Has it ever happened in hockey as well? Soccer? I don't know if it's going to be possible for us. We need Sam here to help us figure out the soccer corner and figure out. And then college, obviously that's not even the same playing field, but Stewart for 3. It's still tied 3-3 as we got 8 minutes left. Kelsey Plum, 2 early fouls. Wow, that's huge. The depth, obviously, for the Aces, maybe not quite where you'd like it for the Liberty. Chat, tell me if that's wrong. You guys know more about the WNBA than me, but we got a 3 from Clark for the Aces. And a really big part of the Aces season, because remember, I mean, they start the season, maybe the win-loss record isn't exactly where you'd like it, and then they're able to turn it around down the stretch a little bit, and, you know, more than down the stretch, you know, a good 2/3 of the season, they're dominating the league pretty good, but still the 4 seed, and a real big part of why they were able to have that was, if I'm not mistaken, Tiffany Hayes, her contributions to the team this year have been amazing, and the 3-point shooting, extra playmaking, shot making that she can provide. And early in the game right now, they've got Clark as the 5th person out on the court. So again, Aces fans who have been admittedly more locked into the Aces than we have for the regular season would be able to give us more clear info in the chat on the lineups. But we'll see if, because I guess they just don't, it's not like, I mean, as you know, a legend, Tiffany Hayes, shout out. You'd want her to play well, but they just need to find whoever has that hot hand for that 5th role. And Chelsea Gray as well, too, struggled in game 1. 4 points. I think they said 1 assist, and finals MVP from last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, you know, we've seen when this team makes a run, obviously it's behind Asia Wilson, but maybe Chelsea Gray is just as important to that as well, too. And she kind of becomes the lead ball handler when she's playing really well. And just in general, I mean, she's a point guard. But we've got Brianna Stewart with the bringing the ball up the court, and I guess you call it an entry pass to the, are we throwing entry passes to the 3-point line? She throws an entry pass to Brianna Stewart, then the back cut down to the post. Brianna Stewart entry pass, Brianna Stewart to Sabrina Ionescu, and then Ionescu off the Stewart bat cut gets the ball back to Stewart. The double entry pass play. Love to see it. NBA, write it down. We'll see that with Jokic and Murray this year. Jokic, bring the ball up. Entry pass to Murray. Back cut. Post up. And if you just go look at the box score for game one, I mean, it's very obvious what jumps out as the star thing. But fortunately, this game was on Sunday. TV was already on. NFL games were kind of in a spot. Anthony Richardson was out, so we were able to tune into the start of Aces versus Liberty last time. And I mean, and for good reason, Asia Wilson has been the person that's just been heralded for the season that she's been having. And again, for amazing, like the stats that she's been putting up, historic season. She's in the midst of an all-time run for an all-time great player. But this is a crazy matchup and a crazy opportunity for Brianna Stewart to outplay the consensus best player in the WNBA in a way. And again, Brianna Stewart, it's not like an incredible rise for her to make that jump up. I mean, she is arguably the second best player in the WNBA when she's at her peak. But a chance to, whoa, Brianna Stewart, stuffed by why do I keep calling Sabrina Ionescu Brianna Stewart? Sabrina Ionescu blocked on the three-point attempt by Jackie Young, I believe. But I was trying to think right before we started this up, back to that game one and about times in the NBA when that's happened. Sorry, people, I knocked my light over. Okay, we're back up. And, you know, the easiest one that comes to mind, because LeBron was the best player in the league for so long, was the 2016 LeBron versus Durant finals. But Durant was just in a different spot in that team, and that's one of the reasons that it was such a bummer that he went to that team, because obviously competitively it was such a big advantage that, I mean, we still obviously give Durant the credit. Nobody discredits Durant necessarily for how well he plays, but if he's able to go toe-to-toe with LeBron on that Thunder team, or a team that's not as, not considered the greatest team of all time and has a run and is, and I guess that's the thing. We actually we just want to see at some point in our basketball lives, him propel that team extra to the NBA. And again, they lost the finals in 2016 to the Cavs that year. So you can't argue that he did propel them. And, maybe that is fair to some degree as well, too, if we're just talking it out here. In a timeout for this game, 12-13. Aces are on top, sorry. But I do think that if they go back next year, I mean, it wouldn't be surprised that if we had gotten that matchup a couple years, regardless of Durant going to that team, and if they had maybe split them, it would have maybe been hard for them to go 4 times in a row, but if they had split them in a hypothetical that way, 2-2, but Brianna Stewart, I mean, this is the Liberty core that they've had for a while, and this is the team that they built. Obviously, she went to that team from the Storm, if I'm not mistaken, but they get Jonquil Jones as well, too. But bring in Sabrina Ionescu. They've had a couple of years to run this group together. They've got some depth pieces as well. Again, chat, update us on the roster moves throughout the season. You guys will know better than us. But for the most part, it's just these players having to overcome and, a little bit of the aces as well, too. Maybe taking a step back, having a long run. But Sabrina as well, too, in that game one was fantastic. And last year for the Aces, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum is an all-time great player, but you get, Jackie Young maybe having a little bit of a step-up run in the playoffs. Let's go check what she did. Because I remember she was 40% from 3 in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. But let's double-check what she did in the playoffs. She was 45%. From 3. She was 9th in MVP voting last year. 2nd team all WNBA. This year, 33%. And we're not starting the first quarter by calling people out. We're just saying that, this is the ebbs and flow of winning the title. Then This is how great you have to be over the course of a season, and you need, these are not role players. Obviously, there's all-star and guys that are getting MVP, people that are getting MVP level conversation, but there might be ebbs and flows in your, like we're seeing with Jamal Murray on the Nuggets, where in the playoffs, there might be some up and down performances where there's just going to be consistencies with your great players. That's why they're your great players. But in the playoffs last year, I mean, her percentage last year in the regular season dipped down from 45% to 41%. So she was obviously on fire. And she was shooting more threes in the playoffs as well, too. So you could argue that she took a step up. She was 90% from she's a killer free throw shooter. But this year in 3 playoff games, 33% in the playoffs and 33% in the regular season as well, too. Yeah, she was 52, 45, 86 last year. So what's the 50, 40, 90 club for the WNBA? I'm assuming Sabrina has sniffed that. And, she'll get there as well, too, one of these seasons. But, yeah, Caitlin Clark, will she do a 50, 40, 90? But Sabrina is kind of having the playoff run right now. And we watched that last game, and she had the 30-point, almost a 30-point double-double. And 21 efficient points in game 1. Obviously a big reason of why they're set up with the series lead right now. So getting these all-time stuff from these players, the Liberty are definitely looking pretty terrifying. But we got a technical foul situation. Jackie Young shooting some free throws all by herself. And this Liberty court as well, too. Anytime that we can get a basketball game on a gray basketball court, I'm a fan. I don't know if that's a hot take. Chat, tell us if you guys like the gray basketball courts. Maybe we'll put up a poll at some point. Follow us on, I guess you're on the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Stay tuned for the poll. We'll put up a poll. What do you guys like better? Just a normal hardwood court, or are you guys a fan of the gray courts? Because make no mistake, if I ever am able to, well, not able to, but if I ever just commit to getting a new 2K and dip my toe back into the video game world, I make no mistake, as soon as I start up a franchise in association mode, the first things I want to start doing are just customizing the courts, getting the team set up correctly, doing all the settings. I just want to run it, be in the HQ for the team, not actually simulate any of the games. But it's always making a gray basketball court. And I guess the Liberty are, I know the WNBA teams are not necessarily associated with NBA teams, but the Liberty are a little Nets adjacent. Knicks fans, how do you feel about seeing Spike Lee at the, I guess all the Knicks fans are Liberty fans too. Shout out Jason Concepcion. Call in, buddy. He's I guess what's a term for not necessarily a friend of the pod, but an idol of the pod. An idol of the pod feels a little bit too strong, but somebody the pod definitely admires. Shout out Jason Concepcion, Knicks fan. I know he's a Liberty fan as well too, but Spike Lee, that's what I'm saying. I just always think of the Liberty as Nets adjacent. So it's like, wait a second, Spike Lee is like rooting for the Nets and in Barclays like cheering for a team, the home team in Barclays Center. Is it something a little bit wrong about that? But maybe it's sort of just accepted. Maybe it's an open relationship and they're just all okay with it. But if I remember correctly, when the WNBA announced the Valkyrie, aren't the Valkyries for Golden State out in the Bay? And I think that's the team name, if I'm not mistaken. We can double check that. Let's look that up quick. I think those colors are different from the Warriors. Here, we'll also go background mode. Shout out 1916 as the first quarter is winding down. Vandersloot and one. The veteran, again, just making big plays. I mean, this is what you need. You got a player in your peak in Breanna Stewart. And Jonquel Jones as well, too. And then Sabrina on the rise, but also playing amazing. And then just a veteran like Vandersloot to make savvy plays. Aces, though. Still up by 3. Probably going to be up by 2 after Vandersloot knocks this one in. But they were pointing out on the pregame as well, too. Shout out to the pregame coverage. I wish I remembered the name of the coach that's on there. We'll get it at halftime, and then we'll drop the name. Here, we'll write that down. We don't want to forget. Because shout out, she was doing a great job breaking down just the general stagnation that can happen with the Aces offense. I mean, that was kind of right on that possession, but you get A'ja Wilson with an incredible mid-range jumper. So maybe that's part of it where, and this is not, well, you know, this is not us giving up any Becky Hammon stock, but, and maybe not even us saying that she's necessarily being out-coached, but it does seem like whatever the Liberty are running, a little more fluid at times. And, you know, I guess that is coaching. Shout out Becky Hammon. We're still fans. Vandersloot, though, 2 for 2. Oh, big 3 by Chelsea Gray. They said perfect from the field, 3 for 3 to start the game. Yeah, there we go. We got the stats. 2 for 2 from 3. So turning it around from where they're at. But if the Liberty can still hang in here, that's going to be scary because it does seem like the Aces are playing generally pretty well here. Some good one-on-one defense. No foul. Ball out of bounds. It's going to be Aces ball. And A'ja Wilson just draining the pull-up jumper right in Jonquel Jones's face. And just the, I don't know if we said this already too, but there is a desperation. I mean, you can see it with the Aces. They know the importance of this game. Becky Hammon, shout out, you know, her time with Pop. I'm sure she picked up a thing or two. And, I mean, you know, she's obviously her own character as well. But just the realism at which she approaches all of her interviews and the press and all that stuff. And, I mean, you could just see it, too, with her talking about the importance of this game, too. Obviously, in a series where it's a best of 5 versus a best of 7, there's just going to be a tad bit more importance on every game. But they're going to be really serious. They're going to be locked in. So, again, if the Liberty are just hanging around here, it's going to be dangerous. Because the Aces also, if they're going Stewart Jones, they just don't have a second front court player, I feel like, to help give A'ja Wilson that. Trying to get a good... trying to remember all the lineups and who's out on the court right now, but I forget what we were saying before. I feel like we were talking about something, but Chelsea Gray with the rebound. And her obviously being on Team USA and just kind of in and out all year, I'm sure has not helped her consistency, you know, like this. But the mid-range jumper crossover, that's, from the little bit that we watched, that's kind of a shot that she kind of likes to get. And I just want to keep emphasizing that. I don't want to Terrence out the WNBA people. You know, we just open and honest. We're trying the best we can to watch all the games. But getting to that midi, she definitely favors that when we tune in. And we tune into playoff games, and the Aces are always around. Chelsea Gray. Becky Hammon. But speaking of good coaches, should we talk a little bit about college football this past weekend? The biggest game of the weekend, potentially? I think probably the best game of the weekend if we're just going all football. The drama, the storyline, the build-up, and then kind of the game ended up delivering as well, too. But Georgia, Alabama, I guess, you know, Seahawks-Lions was a pretty competitive game through 3 quarters. And I think through most of 4. Lions obviously got out there a little bit at the end. But Georgia, Bama, another one living up to the hype. Bama, is this now 3 wins in a row versus Georgia? I know they have, Georgia's last 3 losses have been to Bama, but I don't know if that's been in a row. Is that another 3-peat right there? The Bama 3-peat over Georgia? Jalen Milroe, though, beat Carson Beck back-to-back. Major pause. We might actually have to take like a genuine moment of silence for that. That's crazy. But back-to-back victories over Carson Beck. And, you know, I know we've said we've spoke our mind about Carson Beck and his current place in the draft. And, you know, it's always, you know, we just don't want to be on here in season while the guy's trying to win a national title talking about, you know, him versus these other players. But the lists are going to continue to get more interesting. Should we do a live check and see if Jalen Milroe has broken the Tankathon big board? Because Cam Ward, as we've been tracking, has been rising up. I'm assuming after this week's performance, probably just ended up staying the same place on the big board. But my guess is and if he continues playing this well too, deservedly so, there would be some genuine buzz around Milroe. And especially if Carson Beck is in the mix here again. But so now Quinn Ewers has officially jumped Carson Beck. Shedeur Saunders is number 1 on Tankathon. They have number 5 overall, the number 5 overall prospect. Quinn Ewers number 10. Carson Beck 21. Cam Ward up to 23. And Jalen Milroe at 31. So Jalen Milroe is now in the first round on Tankathon talent-wise. I don't know if they have him mocked in the first round, because they had Cam Ward a little bit lower last week than his spot. They still have Cam Ward going to the Steelers at 28. Still not, Tankathon not sold on Justin Fields. But they have Jalen Milroe. Whoa, Jalen Milroe at 41 to the Giants. So the Giants right now, the number 10 overall pick in the draft. So I know we said Quinn Ewers was the number 10 overall player. You just go, well, why don't they take Quinn Ewers? But he's a quarterback. He's going to go a little bit higher. They have him going number 6 to Tennessee. Shedeur Saunders 5 to Cleveland. Oh, no, Shedeur. Somebody save him. Quinn Ewers in Tennessee, a more refined Will Levis. Will Levis after some AA. But they've got the Giants at 10 taking Benjamin Morrison, who we like. We're fans of. I believe he's cornerback 1 on... Oh, Will Johnson. Sorry. My bad, Will. Don't want to forget our Michigan man. Will Johnson is so high up on the draft boards that he's just out of range. We forgot we have to keep scrolling. But cornerback 2, Ben Morris at 10. So if the Giants did a little Ben Morris, Jalen Milroe, first, second round, I mean, that's a crazy combination. And I don't know if Jalen Milroe would get to 41 in the second round either. That in itself might be a little bit of a risk, but regardless, and just asking the Giants to pull off a successful draft. Is Joe Shane's son running the draft? If Joe Shane's son is running the draft, then maybe they actually have a chance to nab something good. But Carson Beck right now, 21 to the Raiders. So all that to say, we were meant to pivot to talk about the coaches, but Milroe did impress. And, Carson Beck, too, we will give him credit for hanging in there, because I'm not going to lie. Like, when the game got out of hand, I turned the TV. I figured I'll go watch. Drew Aller is playing Illinois. He's another guy who's, creeping up boards right now. He's going to be a second-round pick if projections. At least we'll rephrase that. Right now, he's projected out as kind of a second-round pick, but in that range, maybe, up or down, give or take a little. But we figure we'll give him a little bit of a watch. Illinois, they're ranked 2. They're a little bit interesting. And, I think we've seen enough of what we need to see from Carson Beck. But then they start coming back, and it's like, oh, we got to tune in and watch this. And Carson Beck, he's, at least running the offense, and there's at least a calmness to him where he does. Carson Beck is also a candidate for Eli Manning face, where it's just the same face, going good or bad. And the problem was, even when things start going good, the offense starts clicking, and things are actually, and they start putting points on the board. The comeback is actually starting. Pause. This is a tough game for him, I think, to watch even the good passes in this game, because he's just off target a lot in this game. And it's unfortunate. It is what it is. But, I mean, one of the great things about watching a guy like Stroud was, and you just see, Stroud obviously becoming an elite NFL quarterback and these little things that separate him, but just the ball placement and where he was actually throwing the passes, like, to the receivers, where if Carson, and, shout out to the people that are watching the YouTube and Spotify as well, too. We have the video on Spotify. So if you're on Apple, jump over to the YouTube for the Carson Beck, act out. But, You can see the passes are all like, and a lot of them behind the receiver as well too. So again, I don't know if that's like a arm strength sort of zip sort of thing, but just a lot of, to the receiver, but definitely off target. Not passes that you would say like he dropped in the bucket. Carson Beck is not a drop it in the bucket quarterback. And sometimes, admittedly, you don't always need to be a drop it in the bucket quarterback. That's if you're getting the completions and you're reading everything right, you're hitting open guys and you don't, if the reads are there where you don't need to be, then it works. Obviously, if there's a way to make it work, then it's good. I'm not saying that it can't work. I'm just saying that what maybe, again, like we've talked about with other guys, like what maybe can transcend situation a little bit more, which I think is kind of what you want to go for sometimes, and not all the time, every position, every player, but sometimes with the quarterbacks, maybe you want to look a little bit in that direction, maybe just that little bit of accuracy where, our receivers are maybe not the best, or even if the coach is like just not scheming guys up Shanahan level open, but it's working enough to where a good quarterback can actually make it work, then he's able to kind of give you a little leniency with the rest of the team, obviously. But Ace is still up 5 as we work our way into the second quarter here. Clark still contributing, obviously. Not that she wouldn't, but playing good defense there, getting the contest on that three-pointer. And Kalen DeBoer, obviously, is probably the biggest winner of the college football weekend, and maybe, again, just the football weekend in general, because I don't know, maybe in history, has there ever been a succession that has worked this good? I guess, there have been successions that have been upgrades, but the downgrade succession that's actually, like, amazing is not always, it's pretty rare to find. And I think, I'm trying to think, is there like an Emperor situation I'm not thinking of where we got a good Emperor and then, was there ever a back-to-back good Emperor run? What's the best run of Emperors in history? Somebody dropped that in the chat. But to go from Saban and just go, okay, regardless of how good the next guy is going to be, he's just not going to be, it's not even that he's not going to be Saban. It's like, probably not going to be the greatest college football coach of all time. And, we don't want to put limitations on anybody and say that nothing's not possible for Kalen DeBoer or any other coach. But, not necessarily the bet that you want to make when you're hiring a guy, but, or maybe it is. Maybe I'm reading the room wrong. If you get what I'm saying, though, the following Nick Saban, it's the trust that Saban has built can't be captured by a Bama coach, even with the the love that DeBoer just won this weekend with the Bama fans and the amount of approval that he's got right now amongst the consensus of the college football nation as the Alabama head coach. I mean, he's still obviously not Nick Saban. Nick Saban after a loss, it's like, maybe I still feel more confident in Nick Saban after a loss to win the national title than I do in Kalen DeBoer's Alabama team right now. And they're absolutely right in the mix. They're a great team. They had a great performance. And I'm not saying that to discredit. I'm just making the point that, again, Saban is just an impossible shadow to follow. And this is, just about as good as you could go for Kalen DeBoer. And the domination as well, too, because that's the thing that was impressive about that game. Was as good as Milroe was and as good as that Alabama team was, there was a real coaching element that was a benefit to that game. And not that Saban hasn't had a coaching element and a benefit in that way. I mean, they just won the SEC title game last year in an improbable, a low-key, like, this Georgia team is not the Georgia team that won the national title, obviously, but it's not even the Georgia team that was on there last year. Like, last year, they had Brock Bowers, who's already like maybe a top 5 tight end in the NFL, and was maybe, just the single best, you could argue the single best skill player in college football last year. Still some amazing studs on defense, and they still got some. But let's not forget that, Saban was able to really pull off a low-key upset there with Bama taking down that Georgia team in the SEC championship game. But the preparedness and the energy And the way that Alabama came out and attacked Georgia early in this game, it was like, wow, DeBoer is really making his impact here. And that, because if this game is close and it's like Milroe's awesome, puts the team on his back, makes some amazing plays late, like you're still feeling really great as a Bama fan for this season. And, maybe obviously not as good as you would be feeling right now, but you would still be like, okay, we just beat a team that everybody might think is the best team in college football. And we're now in, especially in a 12-team playoff, in a clear path to win the national title. But again, to come out and have that performance in that way, and now it's like, oh, we have confidence that DeBoer, who we know is a good coach, but, the Washington job and the Bama job is definitely a different animal. It's like, what are you able to do with those expectations? And him just I would honestly say shattering expectations is just pretty incredible, and not what I would have bet. If I could have seen it being a good start, but I definitely did not see him going up 28-0 like that. Was it 28-0? 28-3, something like that on Georgia? And maybe it was a little like Boston-y in game one of the NBA Finals. Porzingis goes out there. It's kind of a, just a massive heat check performance, and they're able to get out to a big lead. And it's just, a snowball game, and things get out of hand. It did feel a little bit like game one of a playoff series as well, too. And I know, especially in the college football that we've had lately, you're not able to really approach it that way. The Liberty cut it to 1 and forced the Aces to take a timeout with 7 minutes and 20 seconds left in the second quarter. But we shouldn't have got derailed. I lost my train of thought. But anyways, yeah, we were just super impressed with what DeBoer was able to pull off this week against Kirby Smart. And the importance of that game, that's what we were saying. That game felt like a game one of a playoff game. Now that it is a 12-team playoff, there is like the possibility that this team plays 3 times is actually like what's, pretty likely is tough, because the SEC is really competitive, and you got Tennessee, nipping at the heels. Are they ranked above Georgia right now? You got, Tennessee, if I maybe even remember correctly, supplanting Georgia in the AP poll. But just, if Georgia can continue to be the team that we thought they were even a couple days ago before the Saturday game against Bama, it would not be shocking at all for this team to play 3 times in the regular season, in the SEC championship game, and then again, just in the course of a 12-team playoff, not even necessarily for the national title, but just in the course of a 12-team playoff. So there is a mini series potential here with this team, so I don't know if that factored into Georgia's thinking a little bit, but regardless, I don't know if it's just this season or the expanded playoffs are just, it's like, well, okay, the battle for the 11 and 12 spot and whatever is still going to be kind of just, the intensity is still the same. It's just been moved to a different spot of the ranking. But this year it feels like, you still got to take these games like very seriously, where it was like, oh, maybe you can drop a game at some point in the season. Like, the way that the conferences have realigned, you got Texas and Oklahoma's now are just thrown onto a bunch of really good SEC team schedules, and there's going to be a couple of losses, and there's just going to be a surprise team left out of the playoffs, regardless of the fact if it's 12. And there's a surprise team that slides down the rankings every year, and was maybe a team that was top 4 at one point. Are we talking about Notre Dame? There's always a team that's top 5 and then falls in the rankings. But maybe outside of Notre Dame, there's another school. Texas, I guess, has been that school in the past. But Michigan back in the top 10 as well, too. Every time we're ranked this, the more we creep up, the more nervous I get, because this team is definitely ripe for being upset. And I just, we don't want anybody to take any satisfaction in a victory. But then again, you do, because you want your team to be, really, really good. But with the way that the conferences have all been realigned and reshifted, there is just a extra gravity, I think, to where, 2 losses is still pretty crazy. I don't have the poll here pulled up to look at what the 2 loss teams are kind of looking at right now. And this early in the season, 2 losses, not good. But maybe if you're front-loaded and know you've got some easy games left. Should we actually pay attention here for a second? 1-point game. And if the Liberty are going into halftime here with the lead, like we were saying, super deflating. Defensive foul. Was that Jones pushing Chelsea Gray off the ball? Jonquil Jones getting feisty? Becky Hammond looking upset, but also locked in, but also focused. Oh, and a miscommunication by the Aces. Lead to the turnover. Fresh off the timeout. You never want to see it. And again, with the Liberty nipping at the heels here, down by 1. Hopefully that's not the sign of a collapse. Oh, and they get the ball down low on the mismatch. The Liberty had the lead. Barclays Center is livid. And it looks like, of course, we got an amazing crowd. The New York fans turn up for the Liberty. And especially, like, right now. Now, I know that this series can definitely be viewed as the title, but, I mean, that Sun Link series is no joke. The Sun are a crazy team. I mean, the Sun have stopped Caitlin Clark, so we know that they're a champion. We know they're a championship-level team, obviously. If you can beat Caitlin Clark, the best player in the WNBA, then I think you can take down anybody. But did we just lose all the WNBA people? We're joking, chat. We're joking. Caitlin Clark will be the best player in the WNBA. Angel Reese? Chat, right now, drop in the chat right now, who will win the MVP first? Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese? The Liberty get another bucket. It's a 13-2 run for the Liberty. Admittedly, we were talking about Kalen DeBoer. We were not checking the Asia Wilson sub patterns. I don't know if there was taking her out that kind of led to this, but she's back in the game now. And Brianna Stewart, it seems like she's settling a little bit tonight. There's been quite a few three-pointers. Maybe not as many as I'm thinking, but she was dominating the mid-range. She was dominating the post. And they've been using Asia Wilson on Jonquil Jones as well, too. So a mismatch down low. And they tried to go to it there, but Aces is getting the turnover. Did Chelsea Gray just lose that? She just lost the dribble and then has to get the kick violation to stop the fast break. Whoa, the Liberty coach in the glitter off-white shirt? Black t-shirt, the off-white brand, spelled out on the front of the shirt, but in glitter? Was it off-white? Did I get that right? Chat, is it off-white? I mean, Becky Hammond, of course, one of the more fly coaches in the league. Always strong shoe game, nice suits. Colors are always really coordinating. But the sleekness of the Liberty coach right now. And the Liberty coach has to have a pair of those Tiffany dunks. Those Tiffany & Co. dunks. If she doesn't, somebody DM or chat, DM the Liberty coach a link on StockX to the Tiffany & Co. shoes. Tell her to wear those for the finals. A big miss three with the Aces tying it up here. Halftime is only about 4 minutes away. Jackie Young not doing a lot of shooting. Again, we were criticizing the percentages, so maybe for the best, but Kelsey Plum this time missing at the rim as well, too. Somebody help Asia out. Oh, and that's a big three for the Liberty. Backup three. Lainey Hamilton on the drive for the Liberty. I think she missed her last couple. It looked like she could have taken a tough layup there. But honestly, the right look, getting the open three. Plum drawing the foul. She might have to, and I'm sure she's good at doing this in general, but getting to the free throw line and seeking the contact a little bit more. It might slow the Liberty down a little bit, but she's going to need to get some points. Are we reviewing? I'm seeing the twirls, the finger twirls. Whoa, a challenge on the Kelsey Plum foul. Do they think this is not a foul, or are they just trying to get in Kelsey Plum's head? Pause. There's definitely some lower body contact. Pause. And the arm. We get the arm lowering, chopping down is kind of always a bad sign for a foul call as well, too. But I think the Aces are going to win this one. This would be a tough one to overturn, especially with that arm chopping down. But with Kalen DeBoer looking as impressive as he does and just shattering all these expectations, I am kind of interested in not just to see what he does with Alabama long term, obviously, but just to see what his plan is long term for his career, because 4 games into the Kalen DeBoer career at Alabama, you don't want to start doing what's the next thing. And just in general, if you're a college football head coach, you go, what's the next thing? You build up and go, what's the ultimate job? Obviously, it's Alabama. I guess, maybe we can nitpick and argue what the actual best college football head coaching job could be. But we know that the premier job in college football is the Bama job. So with DeBoer, it would be hard to look at and just say, like, oh, well, of course he's not going to be there for forever. It's the Alabama job. He just was wanting to stay there. But he's getting this job at such a different point in his career versus where Bama was at with not just Saban, but I think with some of its other previous coaches as well, too. I'm not exactly sure who the coach was before Saban. We'll double-check the name. But they've always had consistent runs of guys. So before Nick Saban takes over in 2007. Mike Shula was the head coach for 4 years. Not quite 4 years. Joe Kynes looks like he interimed a game for Mike Shula as well. I don't know if that was a mutual parting of ways. I'm assuming he got fired. 6 and 7. We don't know what ended up happening there. Dennis Franchione for 2 seasons before Mike Shula. Mike DeBow for a handful of seasons before that. And then Gene Stallings, of course, with his little run there, winning the national title in 92 with Bama. Bill Curry for a couple seasons. Ray Perkins, and then Bear Bryant. Let me double check Gene Stallings' coaching background here real quick. I want to see what his history is. Because Saban, when he arrives at Bama, he's already been at LSU, and he's already been at the NFL, and he's just in general obviously already been established as a great college coach, but kind of, and again, not near the end of his career per se for him, because he had such a great run at Bama, nearly a 20-year run there, but he had kind of not, again, even not had done everything, but DeBoer is just getting this job so early on in his career that is there any coach now that, it's just going to be the Bear Bryant and just be at the school for like 30 years? I guess I know there is a couple of guys that have been there for, like, Gundy's been around for forever, but Gundy's a weird coach. Like, if Gundy doesn't get the Oklahoma State job, like, where's he going next? He's going to another, of course, high-powered school, but kind of just some guys I feel like they kind of fit their lane and find their school and just kind of hang out there. But especially for these handful of like consistent title level contending coaches. Like, Harbaugh left after a decade. Saban's gone now. And just the amount of young coaching talent, like maybe this is just the start of the next run of the incredibly amazing, historic, long-run college head coaches. But, you get the Bear Bryant, Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, like all these guys. And I know that obviously we're a couple generations removed from all that stuff. Maybe not, Joe Paterno. And Bobby Bowden, didn't he retire in like 2013 or something crazy? I don't feel like he coached for 140 years. But just the coach that's going to stick around and just be at one of the championship level schools for multiple decades and have the run. Like even with Kirby Smart at Georgia, maybe Kirby does feel kind of like a Georgia guy. I could see that one being like a powerhouse one. But with as impressive as DeBoer has been here, I feel like the NFL is definitely going to court him, obviously. But the Alabama head coach getting courted by the NFL, it's not like we're talking about the Panthers job or the Tampa Bay. The man's not coaching in the NFC South. Make no mistake. The man is coaching in the NFC East or a big market team like that. We're talking, and I'm just talking this out right now. I didn't write this down as a take, but like the Dallas job would be the type. Like, is that the type of thing that, is there just one or two other jobs that maybe a guy like DeBoer would be a little bit more open to taking versus getting Nick Saban, who's been around the block. He's done the NFL thing, so we know that's not going to work. And he's been at the other schools. He's won the national championships. And, just at that stage in his career, he's probably not going to move on a ton. So and we'll have to check back in the Rem and Sam pod in 10 years, and we'll see where the Kalen DeBoer thing is at. But I'll just be curious to see if we are going to get a handful of guys that do that run. Because like I will say, Kirby Smart does have that vibes, and I guess Dabo Swinney is potentially on pace to do that. He's got Clemson bouncing back now. So I make no mistake, it was looking close for a second. It was getting sketchy. Kelsey Plum for three. Oh, rims out. Back iron. It's tied with 90 seconds. 120 seconds. Not 120, sorry. A minute 20. And we're going to get an and one. Is that Laney Hamilton? Who was that for? Thornton? For the Liberty? Breanna Stewart? Doing a Jokic impersonation and playmaking in transition, running the break. Little look away, no look. Running the lane. What a great fast break to watch. And just watching NBA fast, and not that we're necessarily old school guys. We're not old school and everything. I love watching a modern NBA fast break where the guys are sprinting out for three. Kyle Korver style, taking three-pointers. But a fast break with two people running on the sides, going both to the rim? Love to see it. And again, it's not like, oh, can the NBA go back to those days? But it's like, is there never a fast break where you just go to the rim? Commitment to the bit. If NBA is anything, it's committed to the bit of three-pointers and layups. And it looks like it might happen with 40 seconds left. The Liberty up 3. Turn Chelsea Gray over. They may be going into halftime with the lead. Uh-oh, Sabrina for 3. Killer. Brutal, people. It's not looking good. It's another 9-0 run in the last 2 minutes. And Plum loses the ball. There's definitely some unforced errors here from the Aces, but the smiles. But the intensity for the Liberty right now, you can tell they're locked in at a different level. You can tell the this team is hungry for a championship, people. You can see it. Vandersloot to Stewart. Stewart driving. Oh, she misses the layup. The Aces are going to have a chance to At least do something. Oh, Sabrina. Just another big play. Stepping in and stopping the fast break. Knocking the ball out of bounds in transition. There's about 5 seconds left. The Aces are going to get a side inbound. It's going to Clark. Back to Gray. Gray was the inbounder. Step back three-pointer. It was double teamed. That's a tough shot. Again, she's more of a mid-range type person. And Brianna Stewart's got this team fired up. We'll check back in with the name of the coach that was breaking down the half. An incredible turnaround for the Liberty. The Aces had a little bit of a lead there for a second, but not on their home court. The Liberty defend the first half. Incredible. So we'll send it over to the TV timeout, people. We'll do a quick halftime reset, and we'll be back in a couple minutes, people. Thanks for watching the first half. We'll be here for the rest of the game. Don't go anywhere. 3, 2, 1. We're back in, people. Welcome back. It's still halftime, obviously. They don't do a 2-minute halftime in the WNBA. But the coach on the broadcast in the studio for the halftime panel is Hall of Fame coach Carolyn Peck. So shout out Carolyn Peck. Ball movement genie. Again, breaking down the ball movement in the first half. 9 assists in the first quarter for the Aces. Down to 3 in the second quarter. It's a great point. IT, write it down. We will try to get Carolyn Peck on the pod once the season wraps up. Will we be sliding into Coach Carolyn Peck's DMs? Make no mistake, we will be. But business only. Maybe this time. Are we live? Cut that out, people. We want to be professional. And we'll do our best to remain professional as we watch this studio halftime. But make no mistake, they know it's the playoffs. They all came looking their best. I guess we can be there's nothing wrong with being complimentary. An amazing looking studio halftime for the ESPN on WNBA. Obviously, mainstays at the network, but everybody looking extra great for the playoffs tonight. And same for the people, but the playoffs just got everybody looking great. The WNBA, it's been a great addition to the Instagram feed, but do we do a live look-in on the odds for the Aces? Because we were looking at the plus number for the Aces beforehand, but we didn't want to jinx it. And as we stand right now at halftime, Liberty minus 6.5. They're up 6. Okay, so maintaining the lead throughout the second half is what Vegas expects. The Aces are plus 265. So if we think they're gonna win this game, I feel like we kind of have to grab that now, because otherwise the other bet would be, do we want to wait and see, do the Liberty take one more like mini run and then the odds drop again, and then we get the Aces and then they make the comeback a little bit later in the second half, storm back in the fourth quarter, all that. But I feel like if the Liberty go on another mini run here, I feel like the momentum might turn a little bit too much. It may start getting out of hand for the Aces low-key if they don't just get back in this right away. So I know it's only a 6-point game. If the Liberty push it to, say, 10, again, not super disastrous, but at home, down 2-0 with the sloppy play, it feel like it would be tough. My recommendation would be right now, chat, I would grab that Ace. If you like the Aces, I would just grab it now, cross your fingers, and hope for the best. If you like the Liberty, it's a little too late. They're minus 370. Maybe you get the spread, but I wouldn't do it. I think the Aces are going to be fighting. And maybe we go like Aces. Can we do an alt spread for the second half? A second half alt spread? Pause. Doesn't look like that. FanDuel, update your props for the WNBA. They do have a 25% profit boost, so you could profit boost this WNBA or this Aces money line. Potentially get that to like 3-1. So it's plus 265 right now. Is it for parlays? Sorry, we're not doing a shout out. This is not a shout out whatsoever. We don't condone it at all. As a matter of fact, skip ahead. Call a hotline, please. But it looks like, yeah, 3-leg parlay, classic move. So maybe we could do a couple points totals here or whatever. But I feel like it's starting the second half strong is a must for the Aces. Just to have a good stretch of basketball against the Liberty, too. Not that they haven't done that, because, again, the first quarter, they were out on top. Pause. But the second half as well, too, is kind of where I feel like the Liberty ended up. What was the third quarter score for the last game? The Liberty ended up winning by 10, so maybe grab that Liberty spread now then. A couple of points, push it away at the end. Third quarter, oh, the Aces ended up winning that 23-24. So it was in the first half where the Liberty dominated, kind of again like this time, and the fourth quarter was kind of neutral. So if it played out like last time, maybe the Liberty have already done their work. Maybe this is all that they've had to do. And now the Aces will just be back on track. But let's take a look at the other, because I guess I was thinking again about the DeBoer thing where we left off before we were talking about halftime. But again, you do have a tier of college football head coaches that have hung around for a while. Like I was obviously, Kurt Ferentz and like we said, Mike Gundy. I guess Mac Brown hasn't been in North Carolina for a long time. He's like a long tenured guy, but there is obviously a bunch of college football head coaches that are career at one school, have made the commitment, and the school's made the commitment back. But again, just for the high level guys, because of the turnover there. And I would be curious to see if this would be at least the first time. I don't know. Chat, has anybody ever moved on from the Alabama job? Again, like we're saying, in that upgrade way, because I think of where DeBoer's at in his career, I feel like that's actually a possibility for him. And NFL teams have obviously probably courted Saban. I can't remember off the top of my head, obviously, like when the last time that was. Chat, remind me when the last time an NFL team was interviewed by Nick Saban. Can we get a Schefter tweet in the chat or something? But at some point, it's like, do we just let him be at Alabama? He's doing his thing. And he's given us great NFL players, too. It's almost better for the product that he just stays in college. And I guess Urban Meyer ended up taking the Jags job from Ohio State. So not like a high-profile team. Obviously, that's one of the teams that I don't know if I'd consider that an upgrade from Alabama all that much. Just because of if it's going good at honestly, if it's going good at Alabama and you're winning a national title, I feel like, chat, would you rather win a national title at Alabama or a Super Bowl for the Jaguars? Because if you win a Super Bowl for the Cowboys, and if you win a Super Bowl for the Cowboys at this point, I mean, you're not even going to get a statue. They might like put you on the state flag or something. Just they might rename the state after you. If Dak Prescott wins the Super Bowl, it just becomes Texas. I don't know. We don't want to get canceled and say anything bad, but Prescott, the state of Prescott, like the CeeDee Lamb, whoever was the Super Bowl MVP would just have be the he'd get the Diddy key to the state. But if you win it at Jacksonville, it's cool and all. Even like the Seattle Super Bowl, the Seattle Super Bowl definitely was an influential Super Bowl. That's an interesting one because I don't know if it is necessarily talked about a lot. It's kind of a boring game, but it was influential too. That team was influential. Like everybody from our era rooted for that team. That was the number one bandwagon team, the Lime Green, the Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor. They had all the cool players, and they were winning all the games, obviously. And they weren't the Patriots either. So that's the team that everybody was jumping on. But again, there's not a cool, legendary factor to that Seahawks title. Like, it's a great title. But the Philly title versus the Patriots, and maybe that's a fan thing as well, too. The Philly fans are obviously much louder. And, well, maybe not on paper. The Seattle fans are pretty loud. But we get on outside of the stadium, off the stadium per se, for the fans, the Philly fans are a little bit louder. But like the Broncos Super Bowl as well, Manning, again, another bad Super Bowl. So maybe the quality of the game, it definitely matters. But like that Rams Super Bowl even, I guess, are the Rams a high market team? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe a Super Bowl is just straight up better than a national championship. But if it's going good at Bama, I feel like there is only a few NFL jobs that, again, if he was approaching the council of Rem and Sam for some advice, And he was like, do I take the Jags job or do I stay at Bama? Be like, bro, just stay at Bama. Like, how much better is the money in Jacksonville? If it's, 3 times as much, then maybe we're having unrealistic expectations about how good it is at Alabama. And, it's Florida, no state income tax as well, too. You're going to be by the ocean. You get hurricane season a little bit there, but overall, it's not too bad. So, there's definitely some positive that the salary gets up there. But the Council of Rem and Sam, I would say, stay at Bama. It would have to be the Dallas job. Maybe the Philly job. I guess I don't know if New England has that luster anymore. No Brady. I guess, if magically if Reed was just like, hey, I wanted to make the three-peat happen and now I want to spend time with my grandkids. I'm hanging up the clipboard, and magically the Kansas City job opened up. Then obviously the job with Mahomes. The job with Mahomes is the number one job in football, period. You have to take that one. But team-wise, and I don't even know if I would recommend working for Jerry Jones in Dallas, but over Alabama. But I would be like, hey, the legacy stuff of working in Dallas is crazy. Like, we got to be real here. And again, the money and the marketing opportunities and all that stuff. But if also just, if you want to make your name known, brother, make no mistake, give the Dallas Cowboy fans something to root about. Bring in Milroe. Bring in Penix, maybe? Bring back Penix? When Atlanta doubles down on Kirk Cousins and just goes, no, he's our starter. Can Penix request a trade in year 1? If Penix requests a trade to Dallas at the trade deadline, Dallas would be they could be maybe sub 500. Dak, a free agent? Oh, and a big 3. Was that Sabrina or was that, I think that was Vandersloot. And I was wrong. You should have taken the plus or the minus 6.5. You should have even alt spreaded that further. This might get out of hand. Maybe seeding does matter. And I think that is maybe that's something to look at maybe going forward for this NBA season 2 with a team like the Denver Nuggets. I guess it doesn't really matter when you get Dallas and all these crazy teams just winning. I guess we throw seeding out in the NBA, but maybe for the Chiefs. Because I will say that is the one thing about Mahomes. Not the one thing, obviously, but in a Brady-like way, he just that visible continual drive for a Super Bowl win. You can just see do we need to pull up a thesaurus for hunger? I feel like we've used that word too many times, but you can just see the thirst. Are there other adjectives? The stomach growls. You can hear the man's stomach growling for a championship every time he's doing a press conference. It's just very obvious how much this man wants to win. And, again, the Aces are a super competitive team, but if you ask me who the most competitive player was in the NFL, it'd be hard for me not to tell you it was Pat Mahomes. And right now, it just looks like Sabrina and Breanna Stewart, or the Sabrina Stewart combo. Stewie and Subs. Jonquil Jones. It's just too locked in right now. They're up by 11. Again, it's already getting out of hand. Jackie Young for 3. Oh, no. Let's just say if it was the shot clock was running down, it still would have been a violation. Now Stewart's going to the post. Down low. The fadeaway. Oh, if she had hit that, it would have been crazy. Because that was a little bit, probably a little bit farther out than it should have been. But obviously it's Breanna Stewart. She can take whatever shot she wants and make whatever shot she wants. So it's if you hit the shot that's a little bit off in the run, it's just, that's the backbreaker at 7 minutes in the third quarter, potentially. So here we go. They can cut it back to single digits. Chelsea Gray driving does just that. A big turn of, and off that Stewart miss, Jonquil Jones had boxed out and had gotten in position to get the rebound. And the ball just, just wasn't in the course of fighting for it, wasn't able to secure it. It went out of bounds off of her. A big missed a big break for the Aces that she didn't get that. And we're able to go back and score. Stewart for 3. Again. Jackie Young trying to get some redemption. Ooh, big shot by Jackie Young. They needed her to make a shot. Cut it to 5. And the spacing that... If Jackie Young can lock back in people, the Aces are back in this. She's guarding Sabrina, though, too, so you know she's going to be worn out. Now she switched on to Stewart. You know they're going back to her. Oh, and she gets the foul. Luckily, Stewart doesn't get the and one there. Maybe we get a missed free throw here for it. This would be a good time. This seems like a good spot in the game for Stewart to miss a free throw. Not a ton of pressure. They are coming back a little bit, so maybe it's like a little bit in the back of their mind. But again, not super detrimental. And Jackie Young is 3 of 6 for 3 tonight, so 50%. Unfortunately, you're down a little bit, and it's just going to have to... The big 3 is going to have to step up. Of course, the role players are as well. But they're going to have to match greatness for greatness. Got them both. Big makes. And we'll give credit as well, too, to Milrose stock rising up in the draft boards. I'm definitely open to it. I haven't necessarily been watching him as an NFL prospect. It seems like he was just not being, again, even a day 2 guy, just not viewed in that range. But with the way he's playing this year, I believe he's the Heisman favorite on FanDuel right now. I kind of miss RIP DRF Sportsbook. Every time we talk about odds, again, not a shout out, FanDuel. Please, everybody, be responsible with your money. If you ask me if you should take the money line or bet in real estate, I'll ask who's playing, but you got to be smart with your funds, though. So Stewart and Jonquil Jones both on the perimeter. You love to see it if you're an Aces fan. And Ionescu with the big drive. The Liberty offense stagnated a little bit on that possession, and those are the worst ones because, again, that's just Sabrina being a better player. Going one-on-one and getting to the basket. Asia Wilson, and maybe the big 3s are going to have to take over. This might just have to be Asia Wilson drops 40. And we just have to crown her the best player of all time after this. She's hit some big mid-range shots today. But again, just with the size of the Liberty, it's kind of hard for her to get down into the paint as well, too. They haven't necessarily... Well, the three-point shooting can definitely be there, like we're saying, if Jackie inconsistency's back up. But regardless, it's looking great for Alabama this year. Who are they, number 1 in the AP poll? Number 1? I don't know if they're the best team in college football, but the Georgia win is probably the most impressive. Again, I know Michigan's a top 10 team and Texas killed them, but I don't know if Michigan is a top 10 team. And I do think Georgia is, they're a top 10 team, but you could still call them a top 5 team. You're not crazy. Again, they came back in that game. It was close. They were in the mix. You could see the Carson Beck stuff. We're not going to sit here and just, dump all over Kirby Smart in Georgia. And somebody needs to just steal the crown as the best college football head coach and take it. And I kind of like it when somebody has the belt. I don't necessarily like it when things are up in the air. When things are up in the air, maybe it's like, hey, it's more open for – now is Sharon Moore in the mix? But, for the NBA, it's like if things are up in the air, is Wembanyama in the mix at some point for the best player in the league? If that gets fuzzy, but there is something cool to, and it's just like seeing a greatness thing. Everybody appreciates greatness, so maybe it's more of just I like seeing that. So if Kirby Smart can, because I mean he's right there, and Dabo is obviously an all-time great head coach, but shout out the NFR podcast. I've been listening to a lot of them lately. They've been, they're great with the hip hop coverage, and I love it when they talk about like perfect albums and classic albums. And sometimes you can be like mixing words with your stuff, but there is definitely a difference between like a perfect album and a classic album. But even like, again, just to like a great album and a classic album where, like Nas has great albums, but Illmatic is off. And, maybe that's the most extreme example. But like, Biggie, Life After Death is one of the greatest selling hip hop albums of all time. I mean, that is a classic, obviously, one of the all-time greats. But I mean, Ready to Die is just probably in everybody's top 5 of all-time albums and just on a different level. And, Dabo, like we're saying, he had the great run. And even if the Clemson thing was continued to, like, let's just say in an alternate timeline, Dabo is not at Clemson right now. Dabo is still a guy that you're like, yeah, Dabo was a great college football head coach in that Clemson team. He built a team that rivaled Saban there with a couple years. And I did it enough time, like turn it over with enough people and a couple of quarterbacks in there that I think it was like, yeah, Dabo was definitely, it's not like he just had the one class and just kind of had the crazy, like we've seen that a couple times too in college football. Like it was like, yeah, Dabo had built a program there. But again, he's not Nick Saban. Like the man's not Bear Bryant. The man's not these all-time legendary, who is in your Mount Rushmore? What are the faces that are being shuffled in and out? Not quite on that level. And Kirby Smart, with the run again that he's had in Georgia, could still be considered like an all-time, he's the man's the back-to-back titles, built maybe the greatest defense of the 21st century and just one of the great units that college football has ever seen. And especially if we're talking NFL talent as well too, maybe some of the Miami units, some of the other teams, especially the actual NFL careers when you start looking at that. And we'll get into like the Georgia stuff, that'll have to play out, but I mean you can kind of see guys falling into place in the league right now. Pickens, of course, there's some offensive pieces too that get kind of overlooked when like doing the whole Georgia big overview piece. Another big 3 by Jackie Young, 57-61. I think our page is not, there we go. Sorry people for the background. Shout out again to YouTube and Spotify gang. Oh, Jackie Young. She's going to need to continue to be clutch. Hit that right at Sabrina's face. The crossover going left. Ooh, if she, especially now, it's like she has a little bit of rhythm. And again, we're not saying like we checked out every Aces game this year, but if there is a WNBA team watching, we're obviously going to watch our team. So, and with the ESPN bump, I mean, if Caitlin Clark is not on ESPN, the next team is going on there. It's the Aces. Like, so I don't know, it's the Becky Hammond ties. Don't call us bandwagon. But now, again, not like we've watched every game, but the Jackie Young just having a stretch of like rhythm and like a ton of swagger. It's just like there's the games that we've checked out, unfortunately. It's great to see that it looks like she's developing that here in the third quarter and she's playing with that tonight. So love to see it. But what we'd also love to see is Kirby Smart, again, just cross the line into, now he's like a iconic head. Like Urban Meyer, especially, too, is another one. A shady college football head coach, no doubt. But, built two incredible programs and had just undeniable runs where he's just going to be in the mix. So Kirby is kind of the only guy, and Dabo, too, on the border of that. I guess, again, if Mac Brown just builds like a random contender in North Carolina. But everybody else is kind of at the beginning of their careers in the start. And I guess DeBoer, you know, was in the national title at Washington, so that's going to go on his resume there. But that run was so short as well. Was he there for like 4 seasons? The 5 seasons? The hotel stay? Do we just need to call that when somebody's there 5 seasons? The hotel stay? It's another big 3-pointer by the Liberty. I didn't see who hit that, though. Oh, of course, I should have guessed. It was Sabrina. Getting revenge for the Jackie Young 3. Okay, new game plan. We can't hit 3-pointers on the person that Sabrina's guarding because she's going to get upset. She's going to start hitting other threes. Yeah, he was only at Washington for 2 seasons. Yeah, and he was at Fresno State for 2 seasons. The man's only been a college football head coach for 4 seasons. And now Alabama for 4 games. And I'm already giving him the Cowboys job. In 2028, the only other job can he coach the Olympic team? Like, just turn over the keys to Kalen DeBoer at this point. But that's exactly what I'm saying is, you know, normally it'd be like a, you know, normally we'd be getting the Joe Biden of college football head coaches in there for Alabama. It's like what you would guess, but we got like a JFK and Kalen DeBoer. we could have comped him to a couple of other young, you know, another young president, but it's like the draft. Do you got to be careful with the cross-racial comps? I think you especially got to be careful when those comps are coach to president. And not that we want Kalen DeBoer's tenure at Alabama to end abruptly. That's not what we're saying him compared to JFK. Washington, I feel like Washington was young when he took over. Well, I guess he was by the time the presidency, you know, I guess the war had weathered him, but I guess he was younger when he was in as the general. Good stop by the Aces, forcing the miss 3. The air ball 3 in the corner. We get Chelsea Gray driving. No foul call. Asia Wilson gets the foul call, though, on the offensive rebound. Oh, I almost just spilled my water. Not good. But quick reflexes. We're back in. A lesser man would have spilt it. A lesser athlete would have spilt it. Shout out Harbaugh. I gotta say, we started as a, you know, fan-wise, we started texting with Jim Harbaugh again. Especially after, you know, they were up on the Chiefs 10-0. And it was like, hey, Harbaugh, how you doing? You looking pretty good. Seems like things are going well over there. Can you take another fan? Did Wilson miss the first free throw? We were distracted talking about Harbaugh. I blanked it out. Got the second one, though. And in the other series, Connecticut is up 1-0. And I don't know if they're the home team. Are they the road team? So, like in this one, you got the Liberty at home, securing home court. But, yeah, Minnesota will be on their home court trying not to go down 2-0 to the Connecticut Sun. And you know that Suns defense. Shout out Dejanay Carrington. You know they're going to be locked in. Is that Vandersloot messing up all of a sudden? What happened? Vandersloot with the foul. Jackie Young again. Are the Liberty going to challenge that? Vandersloot went for the block and definitely got ball on the block. Pause. But it looked like there was some hip check. You know, definitely collided with her. No verticality from Vandersloot on that block attempt. Even if the block itself was clean. Oh, Sabrina with a dart to Jonquel Jones. You know she's getting inside. They have to double Jones, and it's a 3 to Vandersloot. Kelsey Plum on the double. I don't really... Can you blame her? Jonquel Jones had... Push! She got deep position. But you might just have to, you might just have to give up the 2 instead of the 3. Kelsey Plum revenge. I don't know how she's getting revenge off the court right now, but she's getting revenge on the court on these 3-pointers. Whoa, Sabrina with the step. She's hit a couple of those after the whistle 3-pointers in the playoffs that are like the Steph Curry heat checky. Oh man, she doesn't miss, does she? Type 3-pointers. Should we mention something about the NFL though before we get out of here? Before the fourth quarter, there is one NFL thing we'll mention in the fourth quarter once we hit it here. 15 seconds left in the third. The Vegas still, it's only down 6. So again, that second half spread was plus 6.5. Still covering, but still within striking range, more importantly, for Aces fans, headed into the fourth quarter. And a chance to cut it even closer here with A'ja Wilson on the drive. Oh, Jonquel Jones with the block and sending A'ja Wilson to the floor. They got the foul call, though. A'ja Wilson, very frustratedly happy that she finally got one. And with the chance to cut it to 4. So they're a Jamal Crawford away if she makes these from tying it up. Ball don't lie, so she better switch this one here. You know she's serious. She's got the sleeves, the sleeveless jersey. She's got it rolled up extra sleeveless. She might drop 20 points in the fourth quarter because of that. That's like her version of the... Can she just go get like a face mask for the fourth quarter? Just to go full Michael Myers here? IT, can we mail her a face mask for the fourth quarter? Don't clip that out. We're talking about the broken nose ones. We're talking about the ones that make you, the Batman mode. Maybe we'll just mail it. Can we just send her a cowl, a Batman cowl? IT, send her a Batman cowl for the fourth quarter. In a cape. Oh, we got an injury. It looks like somebody might actually need a cowl. They got hit in the head. Jonquel Jones throwing elbows. Her shoulders? Did she collide? Was that like an accidental shoulder check? Oh, was it the fan? Oh no, they bumped heads. And unfortunately, down for the count. You take a, well, pause, but never mind. We won't continue to break down the injury, but I guess there is still 9 seconds here, so the Liberty could get a shot off. I guess, again, we weren't really paying attention to who the ball went out of bounds there. I didn't see that. We were looking more at the injured. Are they reviewing for a foul? The Rem and Sam pod needs to be more locked in. We need to be more clear for the watch party. Sorry, people. Okay, we got a replay here. Neither of them touch the ball as it goes out of bounds. I didn't see them. Did they touch it off the rebound? So otherwise, it's just a miss. And it's just a Liberty ball. I guess she missed the free throw, down 5. Still for the Aces. 9 seconds left in the third quarter. Still 2 shots. Still kind of where you want to be. So maybe we could have misspoke earlier when we said that the Aces would not be able to recover from a mini Liberty run in the first quarter, or the beginning of the third quarter. And they've managed to recover a little bit, steer their way back in the third. And it looks like they're going to... Oh, well, I don't know if she's... Yeah, they're going to have to take her back to the locker room. So I don't know if that's an out for the game sign. We're reviewing the play, getting the call. Okay, they call incidental contact, so no flagrants, obviously. Ooh, and is this Ace's ball? I mean, it touched the Liberty fans, so if anything, it's off them. If he's wearing Ace's t-shirt, turn it inside out. Oh, they're calling the foul on the Aces. Tough. So free throws for the Liberty going into the fourth quarter with a chance to neutralize what the Aces just did on that last possession. But if anything, the Aces at least will get one more shot. Jonquil Jones probably will knock these down. Swish on the first one. Boom goes the dynamite. Kind of like Kalen DeBoer's coaching career. And like I said, I was just super impressed with the preparedness of that team, which is, I guess maybe if anything, this is just more me buying in, like really just buying in. It's like, oh yeah, this guy could really be actually one of the great college football coaches that we have going. And not that everybody didn't think that going forward. I guess maybe just one of the great football coaches. A chance to really make a run. Is he 40s? 49? Is he too old for the NFL at this point? He's going to be 50? And the Aces miss. The Liberty almost get another shot at the end of the third quarter. The Aces are going to go into the third down 7 points. 62-69. Jackie Young leading the team in scoring right now. Let's see what Asia's at for field goal attempts. Asia, okay, Jackie Young through three quarters is at 15, and she is leading in shot attempts with 12. Chelsea Gray playing well again tonight at 5 for 10 with 12 points. And Asia Wilson 5 for 9 with 12 points, 7 rebounds. Tiffany Hayes 9 points, 3 for 6. The Liberty, though, 51% from the field. The Aces, it is the three-point shooting that's keeping them in it right now. They're 50% to the Aces. 38. They've hit basically 3 more threes at this point. They've shot in kind of the same amount. But on the NFL side of things, something that's a little bit more, maybe not breaking news. I don't know if anybody, it's not shocking news, but, continuing developing story out of the NFL when we're talking news stories. But Davante Adams is, again, I think kind of predictably a little unhappy in Las Vegas. So I don't know if the Aces trade is possible. I don't know if he could switch sports. But I think what he's going to end up having to do is move teams and get traded. And the way I saw it phrased today, and this is, I think, the first time I've ever seen it phrased this way for anybody, is Davante Adams prefers to be traded. The guy's not, like, actually requesting a trade. The guy's just, he's just basically openly complaining about his job. So I guess we have seen that. But if you prefer a trade, I don't know if that's requesting a trade. Because, like, I go to work. I feel like everybody at my job prefers a trade. But they can't just request a trade, which, Davante, just go ahead and just request a trade. That's the beautiful thing about the NFL is the player movement and the liberty. You can just shout out New York. But you can just kind of bounce around the job market from city to city is great. There's job opportunities all over the country. It's like you get a place like me and Sam, we work for, in a sense, local places. I guess, I don't know if can you consider, I guess you can't consider a university a local place. But, the NFL, you've got great transfer opportunities. So I just would go ahead and just take full advantage of it. And especially, in your situation too, we get it. You're at a stage in your career where the timeline for building a team, maybe not necessarily, you don't have the freedom with that in your competitive timeline like some other guys might. You need to move with a little bit more sense of urgency. You know, the man is well, I guess we're watching the WNBA. We don't want to make any appropriate jokes, but the man is in a stage in his career where he needs to just, again, think with a little bit more pace. And with as bad as, you know, with the Raiders, the way the Raiders are looking, I don't think we'd blame them. Blame him if he made a trade. I think, you know, if Max Crosby starts preferring to be traded, then the Raiders fans are probably bummed that Davante Adams prefers a trade. And I don't think anybody wants their team to be in a spot where their best players are preferring a trade. Shout out Papa Price, call in, drop in the chat, Papa Price. On a scale of 1 to 10, how you feeling about Davante Adams preferring a trade? But again, Max Crosby is like still, and you know, for just the foreseeable future, maybe longer, the best of his position than a guy like Adams is. And not that Adams isn't in the mix amongst the best in that position, but I think Adams being the best receiver in the league at this point is, there's just the receiver talent in the league. It's too stacked. It's unfortunate for, you know, some of the older players in the league. It is what it is. It's just, again, with the youth movement in the NFL, it's a bias. It's age discrimination. And there's just, unfortunately, no way to stop it at this point. It's out of control. But where does the man go if he prefers to be traded? That is the question. Do we cook up a couple of fake Davante Adams trades? Do we rank one? Should we do our audition for Bleacher Report 1 to 32? Rank the teams for where Davante Adams should go. Ranking every Davante Adams landing spot 1 to 32. Maybe a couple of bonus picks in there. A Brazilian team? The Aces cutting it to 5. Oh, Asia Wilson with the beautiful drop step. It's a 3-point game. It's a 1-possession game. If they get a stop here. The greatness of Asia Wilson on full display. Slicing through the whole Liberty defense on that point, getting Breonna Stewart off her feet. The up and under. One of the most deadly. Jonquel Jones with the entry pass to Stewart. Stewart's got the mismatch. The foul, again, maybe is the best case scenario, but they're arguing for the offensive foul. Will Becky Hammond challenge this one and try to get a foul on Breonna Stewart, potentially? And again, the footwork of the WNBA. In an NBA, that guy is traveling. Maybe he's just doing it because he knows he can get away with it. But Asia Wilson can just do it without traveling in general. And again, not to overly compare, but you got guys in the NBA at 7 feet tall traveling. Sabrina. Sabrina's going to be the one that gets the dagger shots, if anything. Asia and Breonna Stewart might... Is Asia going to neutralize Jonquel Jones and Breonna Stewart? And then maybe it'll just be up to Sabrina in the backcourt people. Jones with another foul. Keep giving Asia Wilson the whistle. It's keeping him in the game. It's keeping him close. Maybe that's the point of the whistle. So, okay, IT, write this down as a recipe for the three-peat. We know you need the whistle on your side. And, oh, what do you know? The Chiefs have their whistle. Pause. Who's the Taylor Swift equivalent for the Aces? Who would Kelsey Plum have to start dating? And then they're like, oh, they're really getting the calls. Oh, the ESPN thing, the ticker just showed the Raiders open to trading Davante Adams. So it looks like it's going both ways. Jonquel Jones, killer three-pointer. She's getting upset from these foul calls. It's only a matter of time. They're up 8, covering that second half spread. The Liberty might just be too much. Maybe Davante Adams goes to the Liberty instead. But do we like Davante Adams on the Jets? Because reuniting him with Aaron Rodgers and, the Jets, do they need another receiver? Do they need a receiver? No, of course they need another receiver. Garrett Wilson is a stud. But reuniting him with Rodgers seems like a common theme. But Adams is kind of one, again, like everybody, I think Adams' approval rating is pretty high. And I don't think, well, maybe the man hasn't necessarily been batting 100% in how he's handled all the situations, end of last year. But I don't think he's, it seems like there's maybe been other receivers that have been more dramatic than what Davante Adams has done in terms of his relationship with the team. And again, it's not like he's just fracturing this Raiders relationship as we speak, even though maybe underground it is with the reports that were emerging right now. But it just seems like Davante Adams and the Raiders, they're drifting apart. And I think that's understandable. And I think a lot of reasonable NFL fans can relate and, feel good for a guy that is able to move on in a good way and go to another team. And I actually want to see Davante Adams try to actually be in a really good spot to try to get a ring. He would be a guy that I would feel really good if the guy got a Super Bowl. And the Jets as a Super Bowl team, I know, playoffs still very much on the table for this season, but Super Bowl, especially after that Broncos loss, is maybe a tough ask. So Buffalo in the AFC East could be pretty interesting as well, too. I don't know what the picks package would have to look like for Davante Adams, because remember, they gave up a ton to get him in the first place. Did they give up? I don't think they gave up two for. I think it was a first and 2 seconds. It might have just been a first and a single second, though. But just because, and not, again, because of any diminished value to Adams, but that was a handful of seasons ago. And just the age value is a little, car off the lot-ish. Yeah, a first and a second was the trade from the Packers to the Raiders. So does he get a first round pick back now? Probably not, but would you go a second and a third for Adams? Is that too much? I mean, make no mistake, the man I think is still, like we're saying, I don't think best receiver in the league, but you don't necessarily need that from your number one receiver. The Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl this year with, they might not even need receivers. What is Justin Watson? Do we know? He's the Pete Davidson of skill guys. It's just like, we don't really know what his position is. Is he a tight end? Is he a receiver? It doesn't even matter. Like, Mahomes is just Moses Malone. He just needs 4 guys and, a couple of mailmen, and he'll be okay. But, I mean, Davante Adams, again, I think is still in the mix for top 10 on, like, a given performance. And still capable of, I think, being a high-volume guy in a playoff game as well, too, again, which I think is ultimately what's important. And not just a guy that can get a lot of catches, but I think being a high-volume guy is a guy that is going to be able to separate on his own and get open for the quarterback, because that's going to be the thing. It's not just we're going to feed this guy screens and get him easy passes. It's going to be Cooper Kupp. I know on this drive he's going to get open and I can just go to him every time and the man's going to deliver. And I think Davante Adams can still get to that position where it's like, oh, there's a drive in the fourth quarter. Davante Adams is just going to get open like 3 or 4 plays in a row and just be there for the quarterback. So I don't know. You put that on the Jets. Is that all they need? Jackie Young, a foul again. Going to the line. We love it. Was 6.5 the spread or the over-under on the amount of foul calls they were going to get? So right now, PFF has Davante Adams graded out as the 68th best receiver in the league. So that is the please trade me Davante Adams performance. But last year, still over 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns on 103 catches. And again, just pretty big limitations at the quarterback position. Was still a first-team All-Pro receiver, though, 2 years ago when he first got to Vegas that first season in 2022. So he'll be 33 next season. Yeah, 33, or excuse me, 32 next season. So that's honestly not bad, too, at all. I was thinking he was going to be, I was thinking off the top of my head, he was more like 34, 35. But is that bad with the way he's playing? Is that how he looks? But no, like I said, I'm still pro him as we're taking a pro Davante Adams stance as an elite receiver. So I would still say a second and a third would be pretty reasonable. Maybe just a first, if a team's getting super bold. Let's see who right now. Again, we're at the quarter mark, so not fully shaping up, but at least a little bit. Minnesota, like if Minnesota, they're going to be a really good regular season team picking at the end of the first round. They have the 31st pick in the draft right now. Do they just, and I guess Tankathon is projecting that out a little bit. I think it's, is it record or playoffs for the end? I think it is it's playoffs for the end of the draft. So yeah, Minnesota is a Super Bowl team right now, because they're the undefeated team in the NFC, and the Chiefs are the undefeated team in the AFC. So do we bet that Super Bowl matchup right now? Is it too obvious? Is that the problem? Chelsea Gray, they showed only 2 points since the first quarter. So not only were they moved, I guess. Maybe it all kind of ties to Chelsea Gray, doesn't it? For the Aces. And it's kind of that 1-2. You need that ball handler big man combination. You need that 1-2 combination. And that's what the Liberty have right now with Sabrina and Breanna Stewart. But again, even if Minnesota is not a Super Bowl team, they're still going to be, I guess, hopefully, if they win the division, so that's at least I guess only one team gets the bye now, though. So, let's say they win a playoff game, they're a divisional round team. That'd be 25 and out, 25-32. I mean, make no mistake, that's still a really good player and a really good contract, but also, it's just like, do we just try to go, hey, screw it. Sam Darnold's playing awesome. Kevin O'Connell is coaching lights out, coaching like the best coach in the league. Brian Flores, we have all the pieces. Do we just really go all in and get Davante Adams if it's just, flipping a single asset for him, even if it's a super high-level asset? So that could be a really interesting team to just go, hey, yeah, we have Addison and we have Jefferson. It does not matter because Addison can work out of the slot. And I guess Davante Adams, make no mistake, can work out of the slot. You can kind of put Addison on the outside and get weird mismatches and kind of Addison, the deep ball threat with him is kind of that's kind of how we saw him scoring the touchdowns a lot last year as well, too, was on some of those shots. So that could be a weird dynamic as well, too. So Minnesota, I guess to jump over into the NFC would kind of be a sleeper team for me as well. I guess the NFC East could be sleeper teams. Would Detroit do that? With the way Jamison Williams is playing and just really validating us as a fantasy son people again. And, we love all of our fantasy sons equally, but we do like to give good draft recommendations as well. We'd like to produce good stock in the Rem and Sam fantasy family. The Ace is cutting it to 2 off the offensive rebound. New York's going to call a timeout. 5 minutes left. Can the Aces survive? Come on, Asia. Becky Hammond better drop some amazing plays in this last 5 minutes here as the Aces try to keep their season alive. And again, it's a best of 5, so 2-0, they can still potentially win the 3 in a row and come back. But you saw Becky. I mean, it's just, it has to, you can't think that way because, you know, you want to be confident in yourselves, but you also have to give real respect to your opponent and know who you're playing. And you're playing the best team in the WNBA and a team that is, again, not just from a roster standpoint that way, but from a vibe standpoint and chemistry standpoint, they're really clicking right now. So you kind of have to know that you're not going to beat them 3 times in a row. And you really need to win this one. But I like Adams in Minnesota. And I obviously we like him in Detroit as well. Like we're saying, we like him on any of these teams, but because Flores is there and because of the QB talent in the league, and granted, again, Sam Darnold was the 3rd quarterback in the draft. He's always been a guy that people have had, like, make no mistake, there are top 3 and top 10 and top 5 picks that teams move on from at the quarterback position, and guys that were controversial at the draft time, that once that happens, it's, you know, the stock gets stoled and people emotionally move on as well too, as well as these teams. But Sam Darnold is one of the guys that a lot of people honestly didn't emotionally move on from Sam Darnold. He had an impact the college career. And a lot of people are just like, give the man a chance if he ever got in an offense, if he ever did this, blah, 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 blah. And we know Kevin O'Connell as well, too, might be like, you know, the real deal head coach and really can just put guys in great positions to succeed, But he is kind of validating a lot of people's opinions about him as well, too, at the quarterback position. Sam Darnold is. So that being said, is it potentially a little glass slipperous? Because Minnesota has seen this before as well too. Like Case Keenum is the best example of this, and I feel like Kirk Cousins just a glass slipper every year waiting to happen, but you know, managed to turn it into $40 million every year. But is, you know, Sam Darnold just going to be and you got McCarthy nipping at his heels as well too. So I guess for the Vikings, you know, is it going to be an interesting situation there? Maybe they need Sam Darnold to lose some games at the end of the year to not succeed. Maybe do they not want to win the Super Bowl? Is that the question? Do the Vikings get aggressive like that and try to win the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold, knowing that if it doesn't work out, now maybe you've gone a little farther than you've hoped for and have a quarterback controversy with him and McCarthy? Or do you just take everything that happens this season as a cherry on top, pause, and just go, this is our group of guys, this is our team, this is what we had in mind, and if we exceed expectations, great. If we win some playoff games, by all means, we're going to be as competitive as possible. And we have our quarterback long-term, McCarthy, we're not going to try to lose, but, you know, we're not going to try to jeopardize the extra future things as well. I would get it. But also, if you had Devontae Adams for J.J. McCarthy the offense would just even be way more insane. And Hawkinson's not even back in and totally cooking yet, you know, like, not really a part. So, I mean, it would only be beneficial for McCarthy as well, too, to just have an extra weapon. And I just feel like the price of him, I mean, first, honestly, like, chat, tell me, I honestly want to know, like, with the NFL stuff, I don't know, only 3 seasons removed from that trade and 2 seasons removed from him being a first-team All-Pro, like, how far has that value slipped? Is it like a fifth? Like, is Devontae Adams going to get traded for a 7th round pick or something dumb like that? A 5th round pick and then Devontae Adams and a 7th back? Like, is that what it's gotten to? I feel like the man is still, we're talking about flipping a real game-changing asset here. And I don't even know if is it Harden-esque what he's doing? I guess, again, there's some performance of a slip, but I also just think the quarterback stuff, like, you know, that's just going to limit. Like, I mean, if you go through the stats, like, some of the catches stuff there, 103 catches is kind of right on pace with what Aaron, like, that's incredible high usage stuff there if you're in the 100-plus category rank. But 1,100 yards on that, a lot of shorter stuff. And we know Devontae Adams, again, maybe he's not Tyreek Hill, but you're not necessarily, well, you know, you are. Aaron Rodgers definitely threw screens out to him, but you can also use him in that intermediate range down the sideline. Really take advantage of that footwork as well, which is where he's really special. Jonquel Jones at the free throw line. 2 big free throws. The Liberty back up by 5. Big timeout, and they've really capitalized out of timeouts. There's been some times where the Aces have not done that. The Chelsea great, A'ja Wilson, pick and roll. A'ja Wilson going Thanos. I'll have to do it myself. She scores one-on-one on Jonquel Jones. Cuts it back to 3. They're going to have to get a stop here. A'ja Wilson's at 20. There's 3 minutes left. She still can get to 40 potentially. Vandersloot. The Sabrina stuff, they're running her around off the ball. Get her the ball. Let her play make after that. Stewie luckily misses the mid-range jumper, back iron. In a chance, and that's the stop they needed. A chance to potentially tie it, but don't rush about that. Just get a good look. A'ja Wilson, step back. Back iron. I think maybe a tad rushed. Stewart trying to draw the foul. But A'ja Wilson was guarding her. They're not going to give that. They're not going to call a foul on A'ja Wilson. Not with 3 minutes left. Vandersloot throwing the ball out of bounds. A brutal mistake. Over the head of Jonquel Jones. And again, the Aces are going to have a chance to tie it up. So, do the Niners get aggressive with Davante Adams? Is there a receiver for receiver move? Is Debo for Davante too much? Do the Raiders have to put stuff in there? Pause. Do they have to add stuff into the trade? Stewart again with the big 3. The Aces need to get a bucket. They've got a transition here. There it is. Asa with the Asa. Cutting the lead to 1 point. 2.5 minutes left. A big transition bucket, getting an easy look. But again, they just haven't been able to really get anything good here in the half court either. Outside of A'ja Wilson just getting an incredible look. And they give up a Sabrina open 3. Thankfully, she missed it. Ooh, you cannot do that. It's too chaotic right now. Ruocco just said it. They need to settle down. And you see Sabrina doing it. She pulls it back out for the and one and gets Stewart on the back cut. Sabrina with the pace and the control. And she's, been around and had some playoff runs here, but early on in her career, it's impressive stuff to see. Is this her 3rd season? Or 4th? Might be her 4th. But she was injured, most of that. Was that her rookie season? The Julius Randle? So I guess technically her 3rd in that sense. Oh, sorry, her 5th season. So, okay, she's getting to the peak of her powers here. She's starting to 26 years old. I guess, yeah, this is... I was seeing a post today that was like, you don't realize how old you're getting until you start realizing what years of the players, their careers are in. And it was Luka Doncic is in year 7 and Tatum is going into year 8. We're almost a decade long into the Tatum saga. That wouldn't mean Jaylen Brown's going into, year 9? I mean, we're basically at a decade for Jaylen Brown's career. So I guess I just wanted to capture my youth a little bit. Thinking back to the times when Sabrina was at Oregon. Not for Sabrina. Shout out Sabrina, but for life too. And Sabrina again getting to the basket. Taking over and getting the big shots at the end of the games. She's been the closer for him. Stewart is, the MVP of the team. Jonquel Jones can light it up on a given day. Big open three for the Aces, tying the game. 90 seconds. They'll probably cover, but they can get the win. But again, Sabrina's been the one that makes and takes. The mama mentality from Sabrina is real, and she does it again. She's a killer. She's making me excited, and I'm not even rooting for her. Can Jackie Young respond? Luckily, it was only a 2. That means they can get it to Asia Wilson. She had an open midi. She takes the crossover. Oh, she missed it. She missed it with a minute left. 27 points a game. She got the look. And Sabrina has a chance to put the dagger in the Aces. The pick and roll. She gets the 3. Oh, no. Oh, she missed it. She hustles. She got the rebound. Sabrina is a terror, people. I can't even watch it. Sabrina's Michael Myers. It's still a 2-point game. Asia Wilson can still get the look. And I felt like she passed up a little bit of an open shot there. I don't know if she got a clean handle on the pass. But she can make that crossover as well, too. I guess Chelsea Gray can get the look. Oh, Asia was going to take a 3. She gets to the rim. Oh, no, Asia. She got to the rim. A chance to tie it. Was she expecting contact? I think that's just some of the chaos that Ruko was talking about a little bit earlier. 18 seconds left. It's a jump ball. They're getting antsy. They're going to have to re-jump. Here we go. Oh, Sabrina with the foul on the jump ball. Wow, and the Aces are in the bonus. They can tie it up. Oh, that's honestly worst case scenario. That means Sabrina's going to get the last shot. Sabrina's going to get the last shot, people. We can't let this happen, and they have to make both of these. Oh, she gets the first. She gets the first free throw. And the worst part is Sabrina is going to get the last shot. And she misses the free throw. It's not even going to matter. Foul, Vegas. Foul. They foul Sabrina. It's 2 free throws, so that's only a tie if she makes them both. But... And this is not the Aces giving away the game by any means. But they've definitely had some opportunities here to get some looks. Oh, and Sabrina misses the free throw. Sabrina! Wipe the hands. It's the hands. That's her first free throw of the game. Barclays Center. She felt the eyes. Here's the second one. It's money. She wasn't going to miss back-to-back. So the Aces can still tie with the 2 here. This is still Asia Wilson can get a great look territory. 11 seconds and some timeouts. I mean, in the bonus, too. A timeout here is just good to settle them down, too, more than anything. So Asia Wilson is going to get the last shot. 11 seconds left. Sabrina might still get the last shot 2 looks from now. Who knows? Oh, we can get a live listen to Becky Hammond. Sorry for the quiet. They only needed 2. One timeout, one reset timeout. I need to talk because I don't want to get the copyright for the audio. Okay, so Becky Hammond said she's okay with the 3 here. She's okay with the win. I think they're drawing up the play that Coach Peck was drawing up at halftime or before the game when she was talking about a Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson pick and roll, and then the 3-point shooter at the corner. If there's a switch here, pin down and screen, get the action going up on top, and then you either got to look at the basket or the person coming off the pin down. Great defense by the Liberty. They should have just called the timeout instead of forcing the inbound. They forced the inbound. Oh, and they're going to review this. The Liberty might get the ball back. This might be off. Is this off Chelsea Plum's ponytail? The little bun she's got going back there? Pause. Well, we don't want to go further, but we're only talking about the hair when we talk about little bun. I think it went off the head, though. Not even getting a look. And Chelsea Gray was the one in the huddle that had asked what we have for timeouts. And she was the one inbounding on that possession. And, you know, I mean, she obviously knew what they had. She knew she could have taken one there. The 5-second count was running down. And make no mistake, Chelsea Plum was not necessarily open. And at that point, the play that they had drawn up was kind of blown apart anyway. So with 11 seconds left, just take the reset, and you have the 2 timeouts. You have a reset timeout and a normal timeout. Take a timeout, just reset, or go to the huddle, drop a new play, and get a good look because, again, there's no reason to force that first look, especially. But great defense by the Liberty, putting pressure as well, too. They have to give credit. And in classic NBA fashion, they don't know. Oh, Vandersloot might have got a finger on this at last second. The Aces are going to be rescued. They're inbounding now a little farther down, though, almost by the corner on the 3-point line. So when you get that timeout, you know, you're inbounding off that hash mark. It just your court, the way you can view the court's a little bit different. Now that corner's opened up a little bit more. But now the action in that corner is going to be right there. I mean, what are we doing? This is definitely off Vandersloot. Let's just give it to the Aces and get going. Oh, beautiful job. The WNBA right on top of it. The NBA would have been there for at least 2 or 3 more minutes. How many angles can we look at? Is it just Bill Kennedy likes watching the tape? Pause. Shout out. Favorite ref. No, they gave it to the Liberty. They gave it to the Liberty. So the Liberty are up by 2. If they foul and miss, it's only a 3-point game, potentially. Not even getting a play off if you're the Liberty. They foul. Sabrina's going to get 2. She's not going to miss again. Do the Rams go for Devontae Adams? Do they try to replace the injuries? I can't think about this Aces game anymore. It's too stressful. She got them both. It's 2-possession game at 4 points. 8.9 seconds left means it's not totally over, but they're heavy breathing in the car right now, rushing to the hospital. I just watched Set It Off the other day. It's the chick in Set It Off. In the back of the car. Spoiler warnings if you haven't seen Set It Off. We've got to get to a hospital now. That's the Aces right now. I feel like a terrible person for not remembering who that was. The name. Character name. Frankie? No, Frankie wasn't the one that got shot. Kimberly Elise's character was the one that got shot. That's right. Okay, let's see what Magic Becky Hammond cooked up this time. They didn't let us in the huddle for this one. Oh, big shot for Asia Wilson. 5.5 seconds left. The Liberty take a timeout. Wow, it's still... So like we were saying, that 9 seconds is still not over. Would you trade Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams right now? Because you wouldn't give up Puka Nacua. Seattle? Do some Lockett and something else? I know Lockett wouldn't help the Raiders' timeline that much, but the NBA, the asset for an asset. Flip him later. Okay, a pause by the Liberty coach. She just said you got to get it in. But she's not wrong. Honestly, words to live by. They're going to have to play the foul game again, though, so it could just go right back up to 4. Our hopes could be crushed in a couple of seconds. Another thing that happens once you get it in, usually. In basketball. Stewart got it, and they foul Stewart. And honestly, rather Stewart than Sabrina. But Sabrina's 90% from the free throw line, so. Is Stewie in the 80s? But it's Stewie. She's going to make them both. 85%. Oh, boy. Knocks the first one in. Chat, are you guys above? Are your streams ahead of me right now? Do you guys know the results of the game? Do you know if she hits this one? Oh, no. Oh, she got it. Uh-oh. We may have to... Okay, they call the reset timeout. Advance the ball. They're going to get a look. Jackie Young for a 3. Off the back of the rim. Jackie Young for another three. We have to close the eyelids on the Liberty season. They may pop them back open and say we were just sleeping, but I don't feel a pulse. The Liberty have won. And they're up 2-0 in the best-of-5 series. Not looking good for the Aces three-peat, but a lesson in three-peating as well, too. Like we were saying going into this, it's going to be interesting to see. And I guess we did talk about this earlier with Mahomes' competitiveness, but I'll be curious to see what level we're going to have to see, Josh Allen and Lamar rise to, because they are, I think, in a little bit of a different spot. Because I always think of where Manning was at in his career going into that first Super Bowl, but the Manning-Brady dynamic was different. I guess I point that one out specifically because that's the main one for me. But Brady is also the best quarterback of all time, so just who was competing against him in his era, kind of like Mahomes. And in those early seasons, the way Manning was dominating the regular season, like Mahomes has had a regular season domination and a playoff domination as well, too. And I know, Lamar has a couple of MVPs in there. It's not like Mahomes is even statistically had that amazing season every year, but he's, for the most part, been in, a couple of 5,000-yard seasons, in the regular season, as we're saying. Statistically, he's been amongst the top tier in the league, obviously, but in a different way that Brady was in his career as well. So that dynamic was different, where I feel like, obviously, the playoff failures for Manning were their narratives as well, too, but the inevitability of Brady for Manning, I don't know if it was as much as it could potentially be for Mahomes right now. And right now, I mean, the inevitability of Mahomes is, I don't know if it's the most in the league, but like we were talking about with Sam, that gap between the 1 and the 2 quarterback might be the highest it's ever been in the league. Just in that, from a fan point, that playoff confidence. So where Josh Allen and Lamar are at right now compared to Peyton, I feel like they have more ground to make up from where Peyton was at in that first Super Bowl, especially from like a legacy standpoint and an all-time standpoint. And Lamar as well, too. He has the 2 MVPs. He's maybe a little more Peyton Manning-esque than Josh Allen is. But, I think from a numbers standpoint, from an impact standpoint, just because Josh Allen hasn't won the MVPs in the regular season doesn't mean he hasn't had the Lamar impact. And, he's maybe even been a little bit more successful than Lamar in the playoffs as well, too. But both those guys as well, too, being blocked by Mahomes, getting to the Super Bowl, and actually getting beat by Mahomes in the playoffs. Like, especially with Rashee Rice going down this year. And it's like, again, they're bleak at the receiver position. Again, they're just, like we were saying on the recap for the Sunday, for the week 4. Again, subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't seen that yet. But, they're the Milton Berle team this year. They're pulling out just enough to win. And it'll be close wins every week, doing just enough. And if he is able to power through and even just get to the Super Bowl this year, because, again, if he gets to the Super Bowl, that means Lamar, he's beaten Lamar. He got through Josh Allen, Burrow. Again, he's blocked all these guys from getting there by being the AFC representative. So, maybe it's Purdy or Jared Goff or Sam Darnold. We'll do the legacy stuff from whoever it is on the NFC, but it's a little bit different than the guys that he's competing with in the AFC right now. So, again, it's not even Mahomes winning the Super Bowl, but if he just gets through the AFC this year, then the inevitability for him against these other guys, it's just like, what do you have to do to get it? Might just be impossible to unseat this guy and beat this guy. And I don't know if that Aces had the vibes going into the year. And, the Chiefs, they get the favorable calls. Maybe, again, with the way they're squeaking out victories, the vibes are different. But it's like, in close games, man, there's just no team that you're going to pick to beat the Chiefs. So it's, kind of at this point, what team do we think could go in there and, like lay the smackdown on the Chiefs? And there just hasn't really been a team that has shown the consistency through 4 weeks and, kind of put all the pieces and just really have shown that recipe that they would be able to do that. The Bills have had really good performances, and, unfortunately they got really beat by the Ravens on Sunday night. They were on pace to be the best resume team in the AFC. The Chargers showed that, maybe with a healthy quarterback, like maybe you actually can win a muddied up game with him if you get some plays at the end of the game. But, just in a close game, nobody's going to beat the Chiefs. So, and, even with Brady, like that playoff game that Manning ended up beating him in, like Brady throws a pick at the end of that game and ends up sealing it. So, make no mistake, I'll go back and watch that 07 AFC Championship game, 06, 07 season. I have no problem reliving the Colts memories. But, and, I was a little bit younger there too, so maybe I'm just not totally recalling the inevitability of Brady. And trust me, we all felt it for the entire run. Like, it was just like, nobody's going to beat this guy. And it's, Manning had a little bit of a phase out period there, but that defense as well too was able to get him. So it was a little bit different. It wasn't necessarily Manning, the quarterback, like stepping up and taking down Brady in the traditional sense that maybe we've seen other quarterback, other Manning performances in other similar, situations against other similar rivals. But they're the last hope now for the 3P team. I guess UConn in college basketball. But RIP the Aces season. The Sun and the Link right now. First quarter almost over. That replay took longer than we thought. It's tied 10-10. The Link do not want to be in the Aces position down 2-0. But we'll see who the Liberty end up facing. I don't know if Liberty fans have a preference. We've watched a little bit more of the Connecticut Sun this year. The Minnesota Link are a blackout team, unfortunately. But Alyssa Thomas, Dejanay Carrington. It's a tough 1-2 combination. Brianna Jones as well. So this will be a fun game to go watch. Unfortunately, we have to end the Aces. Well, not unfortunately for the Liberty fans. There are happy people out there, so I guess that's a good thing in some sense. But we'll go lick our wounds, the Aces fans, regroup, and just, Asia Wilson, worst case scenario, she'll be motivated for next year. They'll have a carrot. And 3-4, it's historic stuff. It's all-time great stuff. Maybe she goes back-to-back MVP again as well, too. But right now it's Brianna Stewart and Sabrina's time. So thank you guys for tuning in to another watch party. I think we'll probably wrap up the stream there, like we said, and go watch the rest of this Link Suns game. And we'll be back this weekend. we don't know what Sam's up to right now. He'll be back on at some point. Not in that kind of way, but we just haven't checked it on the schedule and see if it's back to business as usual yet for Friday. I think it is. I think he's back on this week. But picks regardless. And we haven't checked the college football schedule yet either. We probably should to see who's on for the watch party. But we're just, locked into this WNBA playoffs. Just trying to get through this Tuesday night of basketball. And just go, see what's up next for the WNBA. But like we said, thank you guys for listening. Shout out to the Liberty. Shout out to Asa Wilson. Shout out to Jack. Shout out to the Aces for playing hard, for hanging in there, for trying their best. And follow us on Instagram at Rem and Sam. We're out there on social media on all the platforms at Rem and Sam or at Rem and Sam Podcast. Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. All the podcast platforms, all the social platforms. We are out there. So subscribe if you guys haven't, because the streams, the watch parties, they will continue in the future. And, the WNBA, make no mistake, this is just a warm-up for, and, the WNBA is the main event as well, too. But it's just at that, the end of the season, and this is when we started. So in a sense for us, warming up for the NBA season, which is right around the corner, which you guys will want to stay tuned for because we're going to be locked in and we're going to be here for the ride. So, like I said, follow the streams. Thank you guys for listening and have a good night.